So they say that the evidence of a truly great anime episode is when it feels like it was 5 minutes instead of 20 or 25 minutes. And I actually really felt that way about episode number 2. I felt like this was like a really short episode. Even when I looked back at the timestamp, it was like a 27-minute episode. Now, of course, there was the OP and there was the ED in there, so you take a break a few minutes. It was probably a 22 or 23-minute episode, along with a little, 15 to 30-second little tidbit at the end where he was sharing a moment with the Mother Maria lady. I forget what her actual name is, but the Mother Nun lady that he was sharing with it. So this was a really good episode. This was a informative episode that was really, really quite enjoyable. So I really like the fact that last week's episode we got left off on Will being about 8 years old, right? This week's episode, we skipped to about 5 years later. So I think the time skips so far have been handled pretty well. Now, what I told you guys last week during my review, I still stay with that same mentality this week, that I would love to have seen a little bit more time with him in these elements, in these ages, because he basically skipped from baby to 3 years old to, I think, I don't know if he skipped from 3 to 8. I think he skipped from 3 to 8. And then now 8 to 13. So I would just have loved to seen, a little bit more time with him spent in maybe a couple of those things. Maybe the first episode is, baby and 3, and then maybe 3 to 5. And then now this week's episode is, 8. We get that 8 to 13 journey, and we end up where we were. I just think that I would like to see a little bit more time. Now, that doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong. I still think the pacing is there. And I think the premise of this story is not to tell his coming of age, which, again, I enjoy watching that kind of stuff. But I think it's more of getting him to the next point to where he begins to go on his journey, and he begins to be the paladin who is journeying around the world to find out a lot of things. And probably what he's going to end up doing is he's going to take on, I don't know if the will is the right question, but he's going to take on the mission of GUS, of blood, of the nun. He's going to be able to kind of take on their will going forward. Whatever was tying them to the world, I think that they're going to surface that to him. Whatever, their regret is, they're going to surface that to him. And he's going to be able to use that two ways. He's going to be able to use that to motivate him, and he's going to be able to use that maybe to solve their problems. You know what I mean? Maybe Blood's tie to the world was that he never defeated XYZ. Maybe Gus's was that he never got to meet a person, or he was never able to obtain a certain knowledge. Maybe the nun's was that she was never able to help this, race of people, this whatever. And I feel like he might take those wills with him moving forward into his journey. And I really think that the anime is really focused on getting Will to that point while showing us how he got there really fast, and then setting out on his own journey to go and meet, other folks, other people, things like that. I really think that's the purpose of it. And again, like I said, I don't mind it. I think they're doing a pretty good job of it. Like I said, episode 2 is very, for me at least, it was very captivating. And I really enjoyed it. This episode was really focused around his training and his him exceeding expectations with Blood. And then there was a moment with Gus, and I really want to focus on that moment specifically and kind of let you know my thoughts, my theories, and everything. So in the moment to where he was down in the, I don't want to call it dungeon, but he was in the pathways below the fallen city. Blood had him go and train and take on some of the other undead, which it seems like there was some freaking ginormous ass calamity, probably caused by the gods, because they went over that, hey, the gods weren't getting along, etc. So something was happened that a lot of people died, a lot of people. And it seems like a lot of those people were, it's still like Blood and Gus and them, they still had ties to the world, so they became undead, which it seems that there's a variation of undead. You have Blood and Gus who maintain humanity, maintain their memories, maintain their skills, and then you have other undead who are just kind of wandering undead, just your normal typical zombie type undead. But it seems like a lot of those folks are still tied to the world, so therefore they just kind of roam this undead plane that they're currently on. Regardless, I don't want to get off pace. So Blood has him go and take on some of this undead. He ends up overcoming one. He finds a weapon that has been a magical weapon that has been kind of like enchanted by dwarves, and that's his new weapon, his new spear. And he comes across Gus, and he's like, "Oh, this must be another training thing." But Gus begins to have like a certain look and take whatever moment Gus is in mentally, he's taking that serious, and he's really coming at Will. Now, he's not coming at him 110% because Will quickly recognizes that he has a lot of tools at his disposal to end him, but he still comes at him like pretty fiercely to where Will had to really like give his all. And he's also about to admit this, and I'll use this Sharpie here. He's about to admit the final blow, right? He's about to admit this final blow, and he stops just short of Gus. And he realizes to himself, like, he views Gus and Blood, and, he views them as his parents. He views these three that have raised him for 13 years as his parents, as you should, right? And he's like, I can't do it. I can't, even if he was serious, he's like, I can't do it. And, he has an emotional moment. He begins to cry and say, at the whatever reason you have to do this, I get it. And if your objective is to kill me, do it. And he cries, and, Gus quickly turns his mood and says, oh, well, don't cry, don't take this so seriously. It's just a lesson that we're going through. I just wanted to give my all. You won, you overcame it, blah, blah, blah. And then he moves about his day. But that gets Will thinking, what the F is going on? Like, what the hell's going on here? And I really think, and here's where my theory comes into play, is I think that these three undead, I think they're on some kind of like time restriction. Like, I don't think that they just get to be infinitely undead. Or I don't think that they get to infinitely remain how they are today, undead. I think that there's some kind of timetable that they're on, and some kind of shift that will happen to where maybe they'll lose their humanity, maybe they'll lose their memories, maybe there's an undead god, and then maybe they gave them some kind of like your time is up kind of thing, or maybe they know that they only have so much time. Or maybe they just feel like their time is done in this plane by having raised somebody of Will's stature, and they're feeling like, I'm fulfilled, I'm ready to move on. And I think that they all want to use Will as that catalyst to get them to move on, which is going to cause Will to have to take their lives. So there's a couple of different things. I think that that's probably what we're moving towards. It's either they're ready to go, and they want Will to be the one to do it, and they want to pass on their will, their knowledge, everything to him before they go. Or I think that they're on some kind of timetable, and there's going to be some shift or change, and they're trying to make sure that they're able to leave this world as themselves. Or there's some kind of other like conspiracy that I'm not thinking of, that we haven't come across yet. So I think it's one of those three things. It's either something completely unknown, on some kind of timetable for a couple of different reasons, or they feel accomplished on what they've accomplished during their undead time, and they think it's time to go and set Will on his way. Go do what go do you. We've done us twice now. We're ready to pass on. So there's a couple of different ways that we can go here, but it's all very interesting. And I know for a fact Will's beginning to recognize that, and that's why he's getting so high strung. Regardless, episode 2 was really good. It felt too short. I really like it. I really like the anime. I've given you guys all my thoughts last week on what I thought about the original premise. I think the premise is still pretty good about this. And I'm interested to see what comes next for Will, and when he does set out on his journey. And I want to know everything about this undead population and what the F happened. Like, I want to know all their backstory, which we're inching towards. We're going to get it soon. Let me know what you guys thought about episode number 2. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about my crazy theories. And I'll see you guys next week for episode number 3. Make sure you guys check out my full reaction for this week's episode right here. And another anime video is right below it. That's what YouTube says best for you, so click that one too. Cue it up for later if you haven't seen it already. And we'll see you guys next week for episode 3. Peace out, friends.